But what I've done right now is to open the screen straight up into WinWay, not to go into, as I quite often do, describe the product and what its advantages are in terms of it being an application. But we'll leave that today and get straight into the product so we can make best use of the webinar format, and you can see what's actually happening on the product, which I think will be the best use of our time. I don't need to really talk about the structure because it will come out as we go through the product and perhaps in the questions that you might have later. Now, luckily, we have with us today Steve Hill, who is online, and he is going to be taking your questions. And many of you are chatting to him anyway at the moment. He's going to be taking your questions. So if you've got any questions, please fire them into chat. He'll answer them. And if there's anything that I will either, I mean, he can answer everything, but there may be some things you want me to explain to everyone, in which case I'm sure he'll give me the nod, and I'll explain that. Right. Alpha 2 says there's an echo. Maybe it's Alpha 2 and Alpha in the same place. That might cause an echo. Anyway, I'll move on. Let Steve handle that one. Right. So we have WinWay here. Now, to open it up, I'll go back a step and go to open it up. When it first opens on your desktop, let's go right back to basics. On your desktop, you'll have a WinWay icon. It's red. It starts with AI. The Q's covered up by the shield there, and it will say WinWay Trading Expert Pro underneath. That is your desktop icon which starts the product. Now, don't get it confused. If you've just installed, you'll also have an install file, and that might be on your desktop as well. So put that away into a folder, as I've done here, or take it off the desktop so you don't confuse the two. But the WinWay icon is the one you need to start up. And close it down. When you double click on it, then the menu pops up. Now, when you see this, a lot of people say, well, I can't do much with that. And the answer is you can't. WinWay is pretty much a suite of programs, a suite of applications, which are connected together by the main database and all of your settings and all of the lists which you set up, which you can use all over the service. But it is made up of different applications. Each application has its own icon on your desktop. So we have here charts, market charts, data. I won't read them all out because you can see them, but we'll be going through most of these today, not some of them. We won't be going through this one here, which is portfolio, which is quite an advanced tool, and it's used as you move up in the depth to which you take your use of WinWay and into the depths of how you're trading and the size of your portfolio. When it grows to be sizable, you want to manage that portfolio, you can do that within portfolio. But I won't be going over it today. It doesn't form part of Darren's classes, and it's something that you might want to use indeed after you've finished with Darren's classes and move on. Now, the beauty of WinWay, of course, is that it is there for you whenever you need it, and it can be used at the moment, but it can be used as you progress through your trading career. It can be used by beginners and by professionals, and all the way in between. It's pretty much like, if you consider it like you've just downloaded and installed Excel. Excel is a tool that's used by everyone for different purposes. We all see it as a different product. Some people just see it as you can type a few numbers in and add them up in a column, and that's great. Others start with lookup tables and macros and start to build systems with it and get well beyond what you would do as a basic user. Well, WinWay is pretty much the same in that you can start by just drawing a chart, having a look at a chart, but also you can move on into the other applications and go deeper into each of the applications as your trading progresses. The point of it, though, is it is all there in the same format. So the more you get into it, the more familiar it becomes for you, and the more standard the way that you look at the charts. And let's face it, keeping things consistent is a very, very important part of trading. When you look at a chart...
Ray, can you...
Yes?
Yeah, sorry, Ray. Can you minimize the chat box? We can just see the black box of it on the screen there. If you could just minimize that.
There we go.
Just, yeah, there you
go. I can't hear the nice things you're saying about me behind my back now.
We don't want to hear what we're saying.
Okay, that's lovely. We got rid of that. Okay. Is the visual okay? Can you see my face? No.
No, we don't see your face, Ray. So that's okay.
Okay, because we're just doing a screenshot. Okay, leave the screenshot on then. Okay, right.
Yep.
So we're looking at WinWay in terms of a suite of programs, of which we're going to go through most of those today. Let's start off with our charts. So we've opened up AIQ WinWay, and we click on charts, and the chart opens up pretty much where you left it last time you were in charts. It'll come up with a screen. I just happen to have currency up here, which brings the point what I will be going through a bit later when we've gone through the basics, to go into the new features which are available in the new dial data version of the product. Now, some in the webinar may have come straight in, if you're recent installs, straight into dial data, and these won't be upgrades, but nevertheless they're features which are useful, and I'll explain. Others may have upgraded to dial data, and they will be interested in this because it's something completely new for them. But open up a chart, perhaps something more familiar. I'll go through as I do during the afternoon, talking about some, if you like to call them cheats, things that you can do very quickly to move around WinWay. When you start, you're pressing all the buttons and using all the menus, and that's great. But as you move in, you'll pick up some shortcuts. So if I want to bring up a new chart, I just press my escape key. When I press my escape key, a chart ticker window comes up, and I can type a chart ticker. A is the easiest one. It's the first one on the US market, so I'm going to go with that one, Agilent Technologies. Now, we can bring up a chart. That's just a random chart, and there are lots of interesting information around the chart. Some people will be familiar with other charting programs, some won't be familiar with any charting program, so I'll start to go through the basics of the chart so we can see what it does. Now the first thing is, I'll simplify it and then come back later. We've got some indicators here, which I'll take off so we can see the chart. Here's a chart. Now the chart is in close mode, so maximum view, close only. I can also look at candlesticks, and I can also look at open, high, low, close. So you can flip between these charts very quickly using those buttons at the top. You can also flip between a daily chart, which is what we've got now, W for weekly chart, and you can go for a monthly chart as well. Now you can see there I've got there's some lines on there. It's a great feature of the charts, because these charts are all sitting on your PC. In other words, all of the data sits on the PC, all of the programming sits on your PC. So you're not talking to some web server somewhere across the other side of the world. other than to grab your data once a day, which takes about 5 minutes. But once you've done that, you have everything you need to work on your machine. You have the data you've been collecting, or the data that was preloaded when you received the software, the data which you've been updating, and last night's data if you update. We'll go into some more detail where you can get today's data as well, but that'll come a bit later, and that's a feature of dial data which we'll come to. So you've got all of your data all there. Now it means that this line which I drew in that chart on a previous occasion is still there because it's stored on my PC. Every time you go to a chart, it will have the same parameters that you left it with. It will have the same notes on it which you left on it. So for instance, I can put arrows on by clicking these drawing tools on the left, and I can put an arrow there to say I think that's where we're going up, and this is where we're coming down. There's prizes for this, but you might want to notate, and you can put text on as well. The T for text means you can put some notes about the stock that will remind you next time you look at it. Something like that. You may have had a bad experience or a good one, whatever. You can put any narrative on there, what you're looking for, where you're going with it, what you've done. And next time you go to that stock, no matter in which list it is and wherever it is on the system and whatever time it is later, that will be there until you decide you want to delete it, which is very easy to do. So if you want to delete any indicators, you just right click on them and you can delete that particular item. If you want to delete them all, again, you hover over one of the items and you can delete all items in ticker A. I don't want to do that at the moment because we'll leave them there, but you can delete everything. You can, while we're there, because I've right clicked, probably can't see what I did then, but I right clicked on the chart there. You've got properties. So whenever you right click on charts anywhere, not necessarily on one of those notations you put on there, but anywhere, you'll get properties. And under properties, you can change all sorts of parameters. Those grid lines there, you can take the grid lines away if you want to and put them back very easily. And you can change all manner of things. I can put the title, which Agilent Technologies is on the left, so now I can move it to the right, etc., etc. You can play with it as you will very easily. Once you change that for this stock, it will be the same for all stocks that you see. Now, very importantly, a lot of people will be using is changing colors. You can change any color you wish on the system. From the background, which you can see a black box around the color that's active. So that black box is round white, so we're showing a white background. If I want to change it to yellow, I just click on yellow and apply, and I have a nice yellow background that I don't think I can stand looking at that for very long. So I think we'll bring that back to white, but you can change that. Equally, you can change the scales and the text around. You can change the color of the high-low bars. These at the moment are red, but I can change those. I can change the close, the opens. So these little bars across my high-low, open, high-low, close, can be changed in color. Change the color of the grid, change the color of bands when you're looking at indicators. We'll go into that a bit later. And various other things. We haven't looked at the barometer yet. We'll get there. You can change those colors. Indicators, any indicator which you draw on, you can have three indicators, basic indicators on the right here. So you get 3 ESAs and 3 moving averages. So you can change each of those colors by changing color 1, 2, and 3. We haven't got to it yet, but you can put on the charts, Fibonacci, arcs, bands, retracements, fans, angle regression lines, hollow candles in your candlesticks. Sorry, I can't bring those up to show you. I have to close that and bring up my candlesticks. So at the moment you can see we've got, go back into colours, you can see we've got green and red. You can change those colours should you wish. So you can change solid candles, which at the moment here are red. I can change those to magenta if I really want to. Okay. So I'll change those back. So basically you can change virtually everything you can see on the screen in terms of colour and size of font in terms of numbers to make it more readable. Okay, so we have a chart still. So I mentioned the various tools that we have. Quite often we draw lines on. So here, draw trend lines. If we click on, wait, we've already clicked on that. This is the standard mode is with the arrow, but the draw trend line mode is there on the left. If I click on that, the crosshairs come up. The crosshairs are used so that wherever they are, if you look at the top right corner up here, it shows the date that the crosshairs are at the moment and the price that's there. So 3rd of March, 85.05 was Agilent Technologies. So you can follow that around. Equally, you can. What I've done there is to draw trend lines up, down, whichever way I want to. Or what we often do is let's try and work this out and create an average line to see what the trend is. We can do that as a straight line, as a guess, as we've done it, but we can be more accurate with that, because one of the features we have on the charts here is draw regression lines. Very useful if you want to find the average straight line, the true average between 2 points. So you do that by clicking on the draw trend lines, and then at the start of date, you click and then drag across. If you can see, my cursor is not where the line is. I'm just dragging across to the date which I want to compare. Current. Let go. Now that line I've just drawn is the exact average. It's not guessing as I did before. It's drawing the exact average. So it's very useful if you want to draw a straight line through there to use draw regression lines to get your more accurate average. So here we have the chart, and you can play with it. Equally, you can move up and down the chart. So we can use these buttons at the top to increase spacing, in other words, zoom in, or to decrease spacing and zoom out. Of course, there's other ways of zooming out. So if you go from daily, where you've got just a few months, you can go to weekly, where it goes into couple of years. And then if you go monthly, you've got the years along the bottom. You can go back 8 years, 10 years. We can go back as long as the data is there. The cursor at the bottom can be used to move you up and down the whole gamut of all of the data that's available on the stock. As you can see, this one goes back to just before 2000. So you've got 20 years of history there for Agilent Technologies, and you can move through it all using the cursor. You can also use go straight to a date. So go back to the daily, if I wanted to see what the price was down there, I could use the crosshairs, but I could also, can you see just underneath, if I put the cursor just underneath the x-axis, a little grid appears by the cursor. If I click then, the line the pointer line goes straight to the place you are. So it's very quickly to get there or there or there just by clicking underneath. And then, to move on, on the right hand side you get data about that line, that particular day of that stock. So at the top we've got the date, which is 17th of December 2019, and you've got the close, high, low and open for that day. So you'll always know what the range is, although of course the candlesticks will tell you all of that by showing the end of the candle and the end of the wick to be the high and the low. So what it also tells us is the movement. So this has gone down, the close has gone down by 0.5 over the day, it's on a daily chart, and the high has gone down by 0.1. So everything has been moving down, although the open opened up. Now if we were looking at the daily chart, if we were looking at the weekly chart, then the movement here will be from the last week. Weeks always go from the last trading day of the week. It will be dated a Friday. So the date will flip to the last Friday in that week, and then the price will be current date, and the last week's price will be the last Friday. Right. So we've got some information about a particular stock on a particular day that we're looking at here, 20th, or to be precise, 20th of December. Now what we've also got is what we call the barometer. Now in the barometer you can put in moving averages or other indicators which you're interested on displaying on the chart. To display them on the chart, you just click on one. So I can click what is there at the 10-day short-term exponentially smoothed average. If I click on there, then that will draw here in green the ESA 10 days. By holding my control key down on the keyboard, I can grab any others that I want. So there I can do 3, look at the short-term, intermediate term and long-term exponentially smoothed average. We put these on here because these are the ones that Darren used most, but they're by no means all of the indicators that you can put on. To add indicators is very simple because we have a library of all of the indicators that are available. So if you go into the chart menu, which contains most of the things you want to do on the chart, and go into settings, and then in settings you've got indicator library. You want the indicator library for charting. Then we've got here a list of all the available indicators here, and the selected indicators, and the selected indicators are the ones we see on the screen now. If we want to select another indicator, so if we want a lower Bollinger Band, for instance, we simply click on that, highlight it, drag it across, click it across using the arrow, and it'll come across to the right-hand side. So now when I OK it, I've now got a lower Bollinger Band available to put on my chart, should I want to. Now if I want to come off the chart, I can just click on one of the indicators that I want, or if I hold my control key, I can click on the last one to get rid of that. So hold down your control key and you can do any number or 0 indicators. If you don't hold the control key, you just get the indicator you click on. So you can very easily move between the indicators should you wish to look at those sequentially. Right, the same goes below the line. What we have here are we call below the line indicators because they're typically charted below the chart rather than on the chart. There are various reasons why that is. Sometimes they can confuse the chart and overwrite what's on the chart and make it more difficult to see, so they're put underneath. If you like, you can, any of these indicators, post them over the chart, but sometimes that gets really confusing, so most people don't. So below the line it works pretty much like above the line. One click and I can flip between the various below the line indicators, and these are again all in the indicator library, so there's only a few of them there, and you can add or take away, as you wish by going to chart and settings, indicator library. Right. If I hold my control key down, I can also get more than one of those. Most people don't put too many on because, as you can see, it just cramps up the chart and cramps up the lower indicators as well. But it's easy to, if you do want several and you want to look at the charts and look at all of these together, you can do. If you focus on the chart, I'll go back to indicator mode. If you focus the chart by clicking on it, then another one of those cheats that we have, if you press the Z key, it toggles between just looking at everything as it was or just looking at the chart. So if you want more screen space to see the chart, you can easily do that by pressing your Z key after highlighting it. Equally, if I just want to see the 20-day, 20 WinWay stochastic, I click on that to highlight it, and then Z does the same thing. It will give you totally the stochastic or everything. And you can do that for everything. You can do that for the RSI WinWay as well, so you just see the RSI. So anything that's on here you can view. You can remove them by clicking them on the right hand side, again control key to get rid of them completely, or you can remove them temporarily using the Z key. Like most things in the service, you get used to doing things different ways, and you'll get to know your favorite way and your easiest way, depending on if you're mouse bound or your keyboard bound, or like me, you're finger bound, because I've got a touch screen. So the touch screen works with all of the features and functionality, and so touching icons and things like that is what helps me to navigate best. But equally, you can use your mouse or the keyboard, or a mixture of all of the above. Right, so we're moving backwards and forwards on the charts. We're looking at above the line and below the line indicators to see what's going on this particular stock. Now, Agilent Technologies we're looking at on 20th of December. Things were looking good then, because these green blocks are showing that the trend is up. The trend is up, and it's been up before. It's not just turned up, it continues to be up. If you move along the chart, we can see, the Bollinger Band has gone red there. But there's been quite a long bull run here. There we can see that we've got green with yellow. In other words, it was green, but it's just turning. It's turning down, so it's half green if you like. They're not quite red yet. So that's the movement from there. And obviously the red works the same way. You could have red, which is down, a down indication, and there with red is just turning down. It was green, it's now moving to red, so it's not completely red yet. So you can see for every day how you can get an instant feel as to how that stock's doing just by looking at the barometer. Equally, you can look at the indicators as you follow through each day. Now, when we get to current, some people say, well, I can't see today's price because the line's in the way. So, a great cheat for that is to use the A key. What the A key does on your keyboard, it moves the cursor line to a cursor diamond at the bottom, and that way it frees up the line so you can read the numbers and see the configuration or what's going on your chart slightly easier. Okay, so we've got a chart, we can move up and down it along it. and it's just one chart. But the system is not about one chart. Many systems are about one chart. I mean, if you get many charting systems which can chart everything. Some of them can chart real time, whatever. But the problem is you just chart one chart, and the key to WinWay is that it helps you to find which chart you actually want to look at. So the key for WinWay is looking at lots of charts all together. In fact, looking at the whole market together. And that's where WinWay gets its advantage and its value to you in your trading, because it can get rid of that necessity for going through hundreds of different charts one by one to find a good trade. You can do that. Darren does that just as an exercise. I think he enjoys it. He's got a very keen eye, can spot a good trade just by flicking through. And he can do that after a bit of experience, and you guys can do that after a bit of experience too. But obviously, we've not got as much experience as Darren at doing it. But WinWay can do that, and it can do it in a way which is very easy on the eye and very informative. So we run what are called lists. The top here, we have got the Explore List window. There's a drop down here, and it will give you all of the lists that firstly come pre-packaged with the product, but also you can add your own. And we're going through in a second how we add our own. So if I take SP500 STK, that's an alphabetical list of all the stocks in the S&P 500, and click on that, I then push my enter key. The enter key is another one of these. It's not so much a cheat as a valuable tool. If you enter, you get into the stock view, the list view, which means you can see all of the stocks in a particular list. So here we've got the S&P 500 STK showing at the top. The first of the stocks is A. But I can go through those stocks. But if I want to get back to that next one and look at the barometer, I just press the enter key and I can get back and check out what's going on the that particular stock on any particular day. Push my enter key, I can get back through to the list. Now, where WinWay comes in, because of its structure of having all of the data on your PC and all of the software, you can very quickly move between stocks. If you have an online web-based product, the system has to go to the server, request a chart, the chart has to come down, paint itself on your screen, and you have a look at it. It's great. It takes just a few milliseconds, not very long, but just long enough to stutter. What WinWay does is, because you've got the data, if you can look and see, it goes instantly to the next chart. Instant. Such an instant that it actually goes faster than the eye can see, which is a real benefit, because what it means is the view of your last chart is still in your eye before you move on to the next one. So if you trip through, you can compare one chart with the next because it's still in your view. Now this is great for looking for patterns you're looking for and for comparing in any particular list which stocks are following a particular pattern and which aren't, because you can very quickly go through them and check them out. Other products out there say, well, we get around that, it's easy. What we do is we allow you to put 12 or 20 charts on the screen at once, or you can run it with 12 different screens and have a chart on each. I mean, yes, you can do that with WinWay too, but there's no point. When you start adding charts onto a screen, they'll get smaller and smaller and smaller, so you can see less, obviously. But more importantly, the more stocks you have on the screen, the more you have to move your eye from one side to the other, up and down, to actually compare the stocks. And it gets quite difficult to see, because they're not very big at the time you've got lots of them, and compare stocks. So moving through this way down the lists is what Darren prefers and what you can use to really review. Now, you know, I'm looking at the SP 500. You don't need to look at the whole 500 in one go, because you can draw your own lists. And that's what I want to get on to next, is to show how you can very easily create your own tag list. Darren does this in his sessions, and excuse me. So I'll take you through how you do that. If I want to make a tag list, let's say I'm just looking through the SP 500 to look for some opportunities, and I'm looking at AIG, and I say, yeah, that sounds good to me. I want to review that and keep that on the list. Then all I need to do is to create add to tag list. How do I know what tag list is there at the moment? Well, I had to have created one before. I actually have the S&P 100 in my tag list, which is why when I clicked on AIG, the label is open. It says remove from tag list because AIG is already in S&P 100. So let's not confuse things. So I'll go to tag list and I will set my tag list. Here again, an explore window comes up. You can use any list that you have in the system. They are all available all over the system and available to use, you know, how you wish with them. Now, this one, what I happened to do was to use the S&P 100 in there. But let's start a new one so we don't confuse it. So over here, I've got a new button. I click on new and I give it a name, which is, let's be imaginative, tag list 3. OK, and click on OK. Now what happens at the bottom of the screen here, the current tag list is set as tag list 3. So when I click on AIG, it no longer has this label open because it's not in my new tag list. So I want to tag it in my tag list. I just click on the label up there. Looks like a luggage tag. That's the analogy. And click on it, and that's tagged. I know it's tagged because remove from tag list comes up once I've done it. AEE, that looks a good one. I'll tag it. Alexion, tag it. AGN, tag it. So I've produced a few stocks that I'm interested in. Let's go to one right, you know, maybe down at the end. Zion sounds good. I don't know what that is. Zion Bancorp. I want to tag that one. So I've got a few that I want to tag, but okay, I've tagged them. Where can I find them? Well, the answer is in the question. You know, I've tagged them to tag list 3, so that's where I'm going to find them. How do I find tag list 3? Well, I find tag list in the explore list where all the tag lists and all the lists are available for me to use. So I open it up with the down arrow, find my tag list 3, click on that, and there is my tag list 3. It's the name of the tag list, and there are the stocks which I just tagged to it. So now I can, just like before, I can review those and go through them, compare them, and see what is interesting about those stocks and how they compare with the strategy maybe I've set up and the reason why I've kept that tag list. Now, of course, that tag list, it's on my PC, it's never going to go away. As long as I want it there, it'll stay there. I'll show you a bit later how you can remove a tag list when you don't want it, because you don't have to keep it forever. But that's how you actually produce a tag list, and then it's available for you wherever you are in the system. Right, let's move on then. So I can draw a chart, I can produce a tag list and quickly go through those stocks in the chart. I can look at a pre-prepared, I should say, list like SP500 and look through all of those as well. But that's pretty basic. Well, it's not basic, it's pretty good charting, but nevertheless it is charting. It doesn't in itself start to analyze the stocks that you have. It doesn't look at the market for you. So what I'm going to do now is start to look at the areas that WinWay starts to get you an advantage over other charting packages and how it makes your life slightly more simple when you're going through your trading day. Now, one of the features we've got on charts is, and people may have used it or you may know about it, but I'll go through nevertheless. It's called, it says here EI, but in fact it's called an expert rating. EI is short for expert rating. It's not a rating by an expert. There are no humans involved. There are no humans involved in anything you do in WinWay because it is all about data. It is all about analysing data in an AIQ, artificial intelligence quotient. It's in an artificially intelligent way. It takes all of the data, analyses it, and creates ways in which you can gain advantage. So one of the ways you can gain advantage here is that what the developers have done have taken some of the market moving indicators and weighted them as to how important they are in a particular market, and then aggregated those indicators to come up with a number. That number is for stocks which it thinks are going up between 0 and 100 and down between 0 and minus 100 for down. So you can go 100 up or 100 down, or somewhere in between. Now, as this is all about numbers, it's all about statistical certainty of any analysis. No one can be certain. There are no 100% solutions. So, the idea of when you see expert rating of 100 up, it doesn't mean there's a 100% chance of it going up. It means that all of the indicators which comprise that expert rating are indicating that that stock is about to move in that particular way up. The bigger the number, the more sure it is that it's going up. As I said, never 100% sure, even though you might get 100 on the expert rating. But it just means that all of the indicators are moving that way. So what we're looking at are areas where there's a greater certainty that things are moving up. Here, this one, it's 59 up and 11 down. Mixed. There's a mixed message coming out of this. And we would probably say there's no message at all, because to get statistical significance, we reckon we need an expert rating of over 95 to align the indicators enough to say this is evidence that the market is going up. We need 95% correlation. And here we've only got 59 and 11. So we can move along and see if we can find this one. The expert rating there is 100 down. Now, it may be that that it is going down, but there are false firings of these indicators and real firings. What we're looking for is something to confirm that that expert rating of 100, that's over 95, therefore significant, actually is a true rating. And what we tend to use, I'll just go back onto the barometer view, we tend to use the phase. The phase is a combination of the difference between two ESAs. and with a lot of experience of the developing team that produce expert rating, they found that the best phase, the best ESAs to look at are 10 and 49 days. So they're looking at those ESAs, taking the difference. And so it's important to know when they cross. And what we've got here is a phase. So we can use the phase because the phase is not part of the indicators that are used to check the expert rating. We use the phase to confirm, therefore, whether an expert rating is fired or not. So what we look at is if the phase is going the same way as the expert rating. Now here it's saying 100 down. We look at the last couple of days. It's been going up from a negative, but it's been going up and then up again. So this phase is on the increase. So if the expert rating is on the decrease, there's a mismatch, and that's not a true firing. So it's not a confirmed signal, and we would probably ignore it. Now, it's not to say that there aren't some, and there always are, negative tendencies on there. And how we can see what's going on is by using this button up here. This expert rating button, expert rules, are the rules that are used, in other words, the indicators that are used to create that expert rating. And it lists here those indicators which have what we call fired. In other words, they have come into the fore to create a value when weighted for the expert rating. So this particular stock, the 8th of April, it says the analysis of the rate of change of the exponentially smooth average price. Sort of in human language, because this is all produced by the machine, that means the ESA. It suggests the completion of an uptrend. So the stock has been moving up, and there's no doubt about that. And it's saying that the ESA is showing all the hallmarks of the completion of an uptrend, which means it could go down, because an uptrend, when it starts to end, gives an indication that there's going to be a decline. Of course, it could move up again. So we don't know, and that's why we've looked at this confirmation of the expert rating to check it. But it is becoming to the end of an uptrend there. The expert rating is an early indicator. So it looks at things like, just like there, coming to the end of a run. It doesn't say it's turned over. That would be a much later indication. So expert rating looks at trends which are starting to change, so you can spot an opportunity in time to make that trade. So we suggest looking at the expert rating and then moving on over the next 2 periods. If you're doing a daily analysis, look at it over the next couple of days to check that is going down 100. In this one, we'll find it didn't. And if it's weekly, then you might want to look at a couple of weeks, but a couple of periods to actually check the expert rating. That's interesting there that over the week, that's got an expert rating of plus 96. So with a weekly view, the expert rating is different from the daily view, because the daily view, for a start, was not confirmed. The weekly actually is starting to make a confirmation, because there's a sort of a flat phase here. I'll get that line out of the way. This is where getting the line out of the way sometimes helps. So we have got an increase here. So the phase is moving the same way as the indicator. So on a weekly chart, we're looking at an uptick there. Moving on, if we go to monthly, we see that the expert rating disappears. This is a great way. Quite often I get people calling me up, so my expert ratings disappeared, and it's because they're looking at monthly charts. The issue about monthly charts, we don't produce expert ratings for monthly charts. Reason is there's only one tick per month. There's not enough data to analyze to be able to make some sensible statistical analysis from when you're only looking at one tick for a month. So there is no expert rating for monthly, just weekly or daily. Right, so we can look at expert rating. I find this a very valuable resource for every day. For every value of expert rating, you can get an analysis of what's moving. And this is a great way to see which indicators actually are important in creating a bullish or bearish view of a stock. And it's a good way to get to know the indicators and how they work by just following these expert ratings. Now, you can do what I did before by just moving the stock. I can move my cursor by using my left and my right arrows on my keyboard. That's another way of moving the stock, or as I said, you can click along. But if I move along daily, then I can find an expert rating of over 95. Eventually, there's one, and check it out. And you can say, well, why look at one that's 2 months old? Well, it's quite important to see for any particular stock, to understand if you're going to trade any particular stock, how it performs. Does it perform well under expert rating conditions, or does it not perform well? Not all stocks will. As I said, there are no 100% guarantees. But if you get to know a stock that you are trading, you will get to know how the expert rating moves and how you can get the early sign of that particular stock. Now, it's very easy, as I said, to move along and find them, but wouldn't it be nice if we could find something that will find those for us? And that's what we've got. If you look down here at the bottom of your screen, next to the left arrow, there's an ER button, and next to the right arrow, there's an ER button. So if I push the ER button, it'll take me to the next occurrence of an expert rating, which is over 95. And this one, it's 96 down. Next one, still 96 down, then 97 up, etc. So it'll just take me to those points where there is an expert rating over 95. And that's very useful when you're looking through and getting used to a stock as to how it trades and how it performs with regard to its expert rating. But that's great. So it would be nice, wouldn't it, not just to find a stock and look for an expert rating on a stock, but what I'd like to know is what expert rating I've got today, because those are the kind of stocks I'm going to trade. So I'm very interested in today's expert rating. So to go through all the stocks, which I could, and find out which one has got an expert rating today, I can do. But I'm only looking at the SP 500. I might want to look more further afield into the S&P 1500. It'll take me, there's one, I found one, hallelujah. And I can tag that into a tag list and get a list of stocks which are about to go up or about to go down. Maybe I'll do two lists, one for up, one for down. I could do that manually, and some people do. But this is where WinWay again comes to the fore in making life easy, because this is a great segue for me to get into another application, and that application is reports. Now I'll go to reports. This, can you see this quick launch menu icon, a kind of inverted L? That appears in all of the applications, and that will take you, by clicking on that, back to the quick launch menu so you can move around. You can also, as you get used to it, these little icons here are the icons of the quick launch menu. So you can go straight to reports by clicking on that one there, which is the reports icon. You'll get used to those. Till you're used to them, go back to the menu and then go to particular reports, the particular application you want, in this case, reports. So, reports comes up with basically a blank reports page. We've got in here something like 200 different reports, which are all pre-configured and used for different purposes, and you'll pick those up as you move through the product. At this time, we're looking at expert ratings, so we're looking for, and someone has produced a report which can find all of the expert ratings today, or rather last night when I updated, and find it for us. So if I open up stock reports, there's a list of all the stock report folders, and each folder has got stocks files within it of different reports. So here, if I push the plus to open out expert analysis, it's the expert rating, and I see, oh, we've got two reports, one an upside expert rating and a downside expert rating. Those are the reports that I was looking to produce before. You can do it manually, or just click on there and there's your report. Now what WinWay does for you every day, there's the upside, a few, there's the downside, many more. Unfortunately, that's the nature of the market at the moment, but there are some with some good upticks at the moment. The beauty of this is that every time you update your data, as I said before, it takes about 5 minutes to update each day's worth of data. The system can be programmed to automatically update all of these 200 odd reports for you with the data for yesterday's close. So here we've got the data 15th of April 20. I've got yesterday's close in there for the upside expert rating. So it's produced for me all of those expert ratings overnight. Have gone below 95 here. In fact, it starts basically in order of expert rating value. So the highest at the top, 100, and down to 94. And that's great. There's a nice report, but how can I use that report? Well, here again, WinWay's thought of that. We've got a build report list here. So if we go to build report list, I can click on that, give the report a name, let's call it Rep 24, just for the sake of name, go OK. It will then take you straight to charts. As this is opened up, I'll show you what this is. Every time you open charts, you'll find it'll come up with this splash screen, and that shows you how to get hold of support. Either going to the web page or email or telephone support. The email and phone come straight through to me, so to get hold of me, that's the way through. Typically and best is using email, because I can get back with answers on the email. I'm not always available on the phone, and sometimes, most times, things are better written down for you to look at in your own time, rather than me spouting over the phone on how to fix something. Better you have it down in writing so you can refer to it again. So email me is the best shot, but phone also, and sometimes we get to some emails and we'll flip to phone, and that's how that works. But I'll be showing you how you don't need me, how you can use help in the service, which can get you all of the help that you actually need. When you get bored with looking at my phone number there, and you've got it written down somewhere, or you've done it several times and you don't have to worry about it, you put a tick in this box here, then it won't show this message when you open chart again, but I'll leave that in for now. So back to my list. Rep 24, the report, gave me a report of all stocks, starting with 100, or the highest that was available in that list, and going down the scale. If I push my enter key now, it'll take me from the barometer view to my list view. And my list is Rep 24, that's Rep 24, and these are all exactly the same stocks that were showed in the report. So now I can go through these stocks to see where it was, and that's got 100 up, 99 up, 98, 97, all of the expert ratings. Now I can view on this how I move up and down the expert ratings. I can see why they fired in there, to understand that. And I can also, I've got a list of them, so I can now start to chart these and look at them over the next couple of days to keep my eye on them. I can take them, explain perhaps, and now go to. You can remove items from those lists, but also you can add more to that list, as you might produce different reports each day. You might want to aggregate your the stocks you're actually looking at into one list. Now that's a great way of very quickly coming in the morning, just running the, we don't even have to run the report, looking at the report for expert ratings, seeing what's fired, and knowing the kind of stocks that you're looking at for the day to move forward over the next few days to move forward on. Now, if I look at, bring my phase back up on here, I can better see and put the diamond back on. I can get a better view as to what's happening. Maybe I'll go back to my, well, quite a spike up here that's going on. So we can start to see over the next few days what is actually happening. Now this at the moment is a confirmed uptick of 100 because the phase has changed. It was going down and it's now flipped up. So we can say that that is a confirmed expert rating, and we can watch that over the next couple of days to see if that up movement does take place. Now clearly something's happened on that day, but we want to see if that's sustainable by looking at it over a couple of days. So that's expert rating, but let's go back to reports. But there are many other reports here that you might like to look at depending upon your particular strategy. Darren has various strategies that he helps you with, and he can take you, you can yourself move through different of these reports. If you're, for instance, looking for a price gap, gap up, we're looking for stocks with a gap up, quite a few, strangely. Quite a few stocks with a gap up here. Again, how do we see these gap up stocks? Well, let's produce a report for them, and we'll call it gap up. And today is the 16th. So we'll look at that, takes us straight to charts and shows us what's going on here. This oil service holders. Clear gap up there. Better way to see a gap up is to see the candlestick, as you can see clear air, a lot of clear air there between the low of the day before and the high, or the low of the next day and the high of the day before. So we can move through these, and looks like the energy sector has really taken off. There's a gap up, and again I'll move the cursor out of the way so we can see the gaps. But each one will have a gap this day moving up from yesterday. So we can see there's something going on in all of these. Right, so just an example of how we can use reports which are produced automatically each day to help you find the stocks you're looking for, depending upon the strategy you've decided upon for any particular market that you're in. Now, there's price change. I won't go through lots of these, but in your own time, please go through them, have a look at them, and see how they are moving. Now, to some that are on the trial, they won't be produced automatically for you. Reason for that is time moves on, but the data in your trial doesn't. It doesn't update. That's really the only difference between the trial and the full product, is that you have no method of updating. The software is exactly the same. You do all the analysis, but the data doesn't move forward. Now, that doesn't matter because you can move back in time and look at history and do paper trading quite nicely on it by moving back in time, doing a paper trade, and then rolling forward to see how your trade has progressed. In fact, it's better doing it on historical data, because if you do a paper trade on today's data, you have to wait for the next, depends on the trade of course, the next 2 days to 3 months to see how that trade has gone. And you might want to do it a little quicker than that by going back in history and paper trading that way. Now, to run your reports, you can still run your reports, but obviously you can only run it for days that you've got data. So you won't be able to, if you've got the trial, I think the last day was like February, I think was the last date for the trial when it was last put up there. So if you're on the trial, you've probably got data only to February. So what you need to do is generate the reports. Generate all the reports in one go, but instead of the market, the current day is 16th of April, instead of market 16th of April, your market will be perhaps 16th of February. So if you put 1602.20, you'll be able to run the 16th of February. Check what data you have got, and I'll go through that in a second to show you that. But check on your data to see how what date you have got data for, so you can run a report. And when I've done that, just press OK, and it will go through and do the processing for all of those reports at that date. So I won't, it'll take a couple of minutes, but rather than wait a couple of minutes, we'll come back to this in a second when it's finished. What you can do with these is with the trial, that's the point of this, is everything you can do in your full service except update the data. So you've got a full system. Please test it. Please try things out. Please run the reports that I'm doing now, and you'll see how it works. And you'll get used to it. So when you do subscribe, you'll be able to go straight off, and you'll be up and running. Right, they're nearly done now. So now when I want my expert rating reports, there's my expert rating upside on the 14th of February, a lot more bullish on that date, clearly. But this shows the 14th of February that I've run, that you can run to by changing your date under generate. So you get the full use of all the reports. You can also change some of the parameters on the reports. So if I want to change, for instance, what stocks I used, here is all tickers, or I can use tickers from any one of these groups. So I can just do it on the S&P 500 if I want, or the S&P 1500, or UK for that matter, run them on UK. So you can change that, and you can change, each report has got different constants that you can change, but those constants appear here, so you can change them. That's a great way of customizing the report to the way you're trading on any particular time by changing the actual data from which you're running the reports. And you can just run selected reports. You don't have to run them all together, not that it takes that long, but if you want to just run one report, you can do that manually whenever you like. And you don't have to do all of the reports either. So you can do it on all of the data, but just some of the reports. So group and sector reports, or just stock reports at the end of the week, or you can just do stock reports on a daily basis. You choose what you want to run, when you want to run it. So there's reports. I want to segue back a bit now, because I've left some things behind which I also want to show you in terms of manipulating the data that you have. So we've seen we can draw charts, and we've seen that out of those charts we can produce reports of charts that analyze the market in various different ways. And you can produce lists of those reports. So now I want to go back and show you, as I promised, how you can get rid of a report that you no longer need, not the report, the list from a report that you no longer need, or a tag list that you no longer need, or indeed set one up. Managing the data is done through this application here called Data. Data Manager is its full name, Data as it says underneath, and it's represented by the filing cabinet icon, which is where we iconically keep our data. Right, so if I click on Data Manager, that immediately opens up with a list of all the stocks which are available in the service, and you can drag down that whole list. There's a couple of thousand or more stocks in there for you to look at. You can order them in various orders. So if I click on the column heads, I can order it by symbol. So it starts with 3 and 1 because numbers come before letters. So I can order it by symbol, or I can order it by description with a company name. Or I can just look at one particular market, type of ticker I'm looking for. So whether it's a group ticker or index or a stock, then I can do it by type, or indeed I can do it by market, which is where it was. So something with the groups would have no market, or here there's AM, which is the American Exchange, LN for London, so I can look at all the London stocks, or move on to New York, etc. Now it's interesting to see that as we move on, there are dates here, first and last. These are the dates that the data starts for each individual stock, and the last date that you've got. So because I've updated last night's data, most of these stocks have got 15th of April. Now it will, and they've got start dates of anything from here 2000, 2017, 2009, 5, 1, depending on when the particular stock started trading under that symbol, then the first date goes in there. The last date is when it's updated up until. Now you notice most of these are 15th of April, some will not be. So what happens as time moves on is that some stocks disappear for many different reasons. They may have a halt in trading, they may go bankrupt in extreme, but they may be acquired, they may go private, they may split down into 2 companies, they might just change their ticker symbol, some stocks do, in which case that particular symbol, BCA, will just stop updating. It's not a problem, because what we can easily do is tidy up this data. So if you find that you've updated okay, because most of them are 15th of April, but one particular stock or several particular stocks are not updating, you can tidy your data. Go into Utilities, and in Utilities you can delete inactive or non-trading tickers. If I click on that, I'll just do stocks for now, and I'm going to go OK, and here it's doing it by default for the last month. You can actually tighten this up if you know a stock has stopped trading later than that. You can do less or more than a month if you're not so sure you want to knock out stocks. Maybe it'll come back, as some stocks do. So in this one, I can delete it like that. Are you sure you want to delete all tickers which have not been updated since 16th of March? Yes. Then it tells you there are 52 tickers out of 2,499, which will be deleted. Do you wish to continue? Now, if that number comes out as 520, you might say, well, I'm missing something here. There can't be that many. But I think 52 is a reasonable number of tickers over the whole US and UK markets that over the last month have maybe stopped updating. So I go yes, and that goes through and tidies up. So now I've got all my data at 15th of April. I've got a good database moving forward. Now, so that's my data. I can look at my data in many different ways. Let's go back to that stock Agilent Technologies. Now, to find a ticker in my data manager, I just type the start of the ticker on my keyboard, and that brings up the search bar. So if I type A and keep typing, I might want to look for AA or something, AAA, then I can keep typing. But on the first letter, brings up the search bar. And if I go OK, it'll look for the nearest stop to that ticker. I have to be looking for A, so it'll find it. If not, it'll find one close by. And you can verify whether Agilent exists. So it does exist on my system. So I've got it, and I can look at it. Now, if I double click on it, I can edit the ticker. So there's lots of things I can do. I can change its name if it's got a name that I'm more familiar with, I want to use, or I can actually look at the data. I'm taking over the important things to change. We don't need to worry about some of these more esoteric things which you can change, but there's no point at this stage doing that. But certainly looking at the data is useful. So I can see for Agilent Technologies every single open, high, low, close, and the volume for every day that I've got on that ticker from, it says here, from 18th of November 1999 to 15th of April. So 16th of April is 0 at the moment, and 15th of April I've got close for, and we can go down right the way to the bottom to 18th of November 1999 to see what the volume and the open, high, low, close was. Now, it's great. Why do I want to see that? You know, just data after all. Well, as charts come in, anyone who has used a charting package before will know the concept of having a spike in your chart. And it's quite annoying to have a spike in your chart because it can ruin the look of the chart and really hinder your analysis. And I'll deliberately try now to ruin this chart, if you like, by, for instance, putting 78.39 was the high for Agilent. If I change that, because I can edit that field just by clicking in it, to 178 and go OK, I have changed that high to 178. So when I OK that, edit that ticker. Now if I go to ticker, chart ticker, I look at the chart and now I see the damage it's done to my chart. Because the chart has to show all of the data available, it has shown this high here of 178 that I just put in. And what it means is because it's showing 178 right down to 61, you can't really see the variations in the chart. It's pretty flat lined. Everything is compressed into that small narrow band except for that one ticker. So that is clearly a bad tick, which does occur. Not very frequently, but typically occurs just when you don't want it to. So should that happen and you get a bad tick in a chart, because you have the data on your system, you have the power to correct that immediately. So we do the reverse of what I've just done. But you go to Agilent Technologies in your data manager, and I've still got that open here. I go to the data. I found that the day was today or yesterday, 15th of April. Find the 15th of April, change change 178 to 78. Now, it's not that important exactly what the high is, because you're looking at trends. So if you don't know what it should be, and it's 100 and you don't happen to know that it's 78.39, as long as you look at the high, low, and close, put something reasonable in there, and that will do for now, because it will make the rest of the chart look normal. So I'll do that. Okay. Now when I go to chart ticker, my chart is back. Now 174 is gone, and now I can see how the chart's moving. I can see my trend lines nicely, and I can see the shape again. I can do my analysis. So managing the data is a very important aspect of keeping control of what you are doing. Now, I hear people say, "Oh my God, what happens if I screw up and change the data and I don't know what I've done?" Don't worry about that, because you can always reload data down from the servers. And that's how a lot of people fix their charts, is to wait for the data supplier to fix the chart and then download it at some later date with the correct data in. You can do that too, but then you have to wait for the chart to get fixed, for someone to realize it's there, for it to be corrected. Quite often, these things aren't corrected immediately. They occur not because they're wrong ticks, but they are trades which have happened by mistake. Someone's pushed a button or agreed something they shouldn't have done, and instead of agreeing that 78, they've agreed 178, and the trade's been done. Well, what happens in that type of thing? The person who's done it immediately flags that to their boss, who calls the exchange and says, "Whoops, there's been a bad trade here that's gone on." The exchange then go into investigation, and they find out what happened. Then they get the counterparty, the person that person bought from or sold to at that price, and they get agreement between everyone that this was not intended, and they agree that that trade should be unwound and taken out. Well, that can take several days to do before, and during that time, of course, that poor guy who's traded at 178 has already had the sack probably, and all sorts of ructions have gone on within the account, and they've probably been fined for making bad trades. But that takes days to be organized by the exchanges. And then at the end of that, they'll say, yes, remove that, and all the data providers will then remove it. So by the time you get to a week, you might get that fixed. So what we've got is the ability, as soon as it happens, to get that bad tick down to where it is. Now, even if I hear people say, although I can't hear anyone at the moment, but I do hear people say, they ask me, yeah, but if you're artificially changing that tick, aren't you changing the market and changing the analysis? No, you're not. Because what's happened is, whatever, that bad tick is an aberration. Of course, you have to be happy that it is an aberration. Sometimes there are spikes in stocks, and so you have to look at that and maybe wait a day before you change anything to see if it was real or not. But it's very easy to then pick up that it was a complete aberration. And an aberration, even though it was a good trade, will not be part of the statistics and the analysis of that stock. It is not representative of the trading of that stock when it's so far away. So what some systems do actually is say, okay, any trade that is more than, this is how some vendors get away with getting their data right. They'll say, well, anything that's more than 5% off the market, I'll ignore it in my charts. And they do that, but of course what then happens is you'll miss the big movements in stocks, which can happen. You can get 5% movement, but your supplier won't show it because he's kindly tidied it up for you. So we don't censor any of the data. It comes straight through from the exchange, straight onto your charts. But you have the ability to manage that yourself. And as time goes by, you'll see that's a great advantage to be able to do that. Right, so let's go back to Data Manager, and showing you what you can do. You can edit stocks, but you can also create and edit lists. So I mentioned before, you can find a way of getting rid of a list. Here we created one called Gap Up. So here again, in the Explore window, I've got all of the lists which are available throughout the system. I happen to want to look at Gap Up and delete it. So in that, I go to List, Delete. Now it gives you a chance to say, whoops, I've done something wrong. That's not the one I want. So it comes up with a confirmation. Do you want to delete the list called Gap Up? Yes, I do. And now a quick ding and Gap Up has gone. So you won't find Gap Up in the list. Here, Gap Up 16 is another one we did, but not Gap Up. So that's how you delete a list. Very easy to do. Also, you can, if you want to, you can set up a new list. It's just like setting up a tag list. You just give it a name, new list, and then that list is now available wherever you are in the system to be able to tag stocks to or do whatever you want with that particular list. Or as I showed before, run reports based on those stocks in that list. So you can create lists, delete lists. I mean, you can rename lists if you want to. So if you created a list which had a list for February or something, and you're into March and you actually use the same list, you can just change that list's name and make it more meaningful to you. Right, so that's lists. You can also see remove inactive tickers just from that list, not just from all of them as we did before, but just from that particular list you can remove inactive tickers. I won't go through everything in this, but this is the place where you can change all of your preferences of what ticker data, where you want to keep your data. We have holiday files, which are there to protect you because sometimes exchanges put out data during a holiday just to test in test mode, so you can wipe out that data. What I actually recommend that you do really, because they're more sophisticated nowadays in the data they send out, so they don't send bad data out. So you don't have to turn off your system on holidays. I would just go in and clear holidays, which you can easily do like that as a stroke. And then next year's still in there, but you can remove next year's as well, or whenever you come to it. Or you can put them back by just putting your holidays back in there. So you can manage and manipulate your data in here. Every so often you might want to tidy up your data. So for instance, we've been through deleting inactive tickers, but as you delete lists and files and add stocks in and remove stocks, your files start to get scattered around your disk. So you can rebuild your master ticker list every so often. It doesn't take very long. I won't do it now, but it'll take about a minute, and that goes through and reorders your all of your tickers so they're easier to sort and analyze. So tidying up your data from time to time is good, but that's all done within the world of the data manager. Now, important thing to do is to add or remove tickers or edit tickers. We've looked at editing tickers, but you can add a new ticker if you wish. So, for instance, if I wanted to add a ticker called AAA, for instance, it's a stock. I type it in, I give it a description, new ticker AAA, I don't know what it's called, but I've just put it in there, and go OK, and now I've got this new ticker in there. So setting up a new ticker is as simple as that. Now what you do, of course, you've not populated it with any data because you just set it up. So what you can now do is update the data, and I'll use this as a good segue to go into the update program, which will show you how to update your data. Again, those that are in, go back to the main menu to do that. This is COM, which is the data retrieval application, which allows you to retrieve your data. Now, this is what is available. Everyone can see this. Even if you've got a trial, you can go this far. When you get your credentials, that is when you subscribe, you just get given a user ID and a password, and you input those into setup options and select dial data. Those that are using interactive data at the moment, they'll select interactive data, but most of the new users will be selecting dial data and going to setup and put your user ID and password in there. Once you put your user ID and password in there, you can update your data. So those on a trial won't be able to do that because they won't have their user ID, but that's the only difference. The software is exactly the same. You don't need to, lots of people have asked me, but you do not need to load any new software or upgrade your software in any way to subscribe. So if you've got Trading Expert Pro dial data at the moment, when you subscribe, you just put your user ID in and you're off and running. That's all you need to do. If you're using an old interactive data, or you've not got the dial data Pro version, you're using WinWay Trading Expert, then you will have to upgrade to the dial data software. There's no cost in upgrading to the dial data software, but obviously there is a price for the subscription when you're ready. If anyone who is using the WinWay Trading Expert trial, I'm very happy to upgrade them now, if they want to the dial data version of the trial, because they can see the additional features. Even if they can't get the benefit of them, they can see the additional, and they'll be then ready to go when you subscribe, and you won't have to upgrade at that time. You just don't waste any time, and just put your user ID straight in of an upgrade. So anyone who wants to upgrade, please let me know. Email me at support@winwaycharts.com and I will arrange for you to be upgraded, and you can still use your trial and all the functionality will be exactly the same, but you'll be ready to go with dial data when you choose to subscribe. So I've input my credentials and in setup options, and now I'm going to look at my data retrieval options. Now this enables me to update my data in any way I wish. So I can update my master list, which is everything in the system. And as I said, that takes around 5 minutes per day. So when those who are updating for the first time get to it, it could take several hours. It depends what the date is of the last data you've got. So if it is dated in February, you've got February, March and April to update. You might have 60 days to update. So it's 5 minutes a day. You might have 300 minutes of update to do. But that's just the first time. You can set it going at night or whenever whenever convenient. You can still use your PC for everything else. You can still use WinWay. It's just that some stocks will be updated at any one time and some won't. But you can still use the features and functionality. So the first time, it may take some time. From there on, once you've caught up and you're only updating one day or a couple of days if you've missed out, it's 5 or 10 minutes and it's not going to be a time at all. You can update by user list. So if I just want to update UK, or if I just want to update the tag list I just had, remember I was saying all of your lists are available everywhere in the system, including here for updating. So that new list, that'd be a waste of time, the updating new list, because we haven't put any stocks in it. I just set it up. But if I wanted to do Rep 24, I could update just Rep 24, which is that list we prepared from our reports. Or you can update just one ticker, a selected ticker. When you click on that radio button for selected ticker, the cursor starts blipping in an open window here for for you to type in just the ticker you want. You can do one ticker, typically you would, and that's the purpose I'm doing it right now, because we've just entered a new ticker and I want the data for that new ticker, AAA. So what I'm going to do now is to get the data for that ticker. I might just want selected ticker. I can add others by using the semicolon and putting in all the stocks I do want to update. But for this stage, I just will do AAA. Now, the next section here is the range. So typically you'll use from last update, and by default the radio button is in from last update. So if I've updated up to the 15th, tonight I will use that from last update. The system knows, as I showed in Data Manager, for every stock it knows what the last date is, so it knows how much data it needs to look for and provide. So it'll do that for each stock. Now, if I want to, as I mentioned before, say I got a bad tick in a particular stock and I haven't fixed it, or I fixed it but it's time I wanted the real market data, not just what I dreamt up for that missing tick, I can always reload history. So if I click the button in there, and you can do it from and to, up to, I think it's 6 months of history, you can go back and update at any one time. So I can find that bad tick whenever it is, put the date in there, and update everything since, or just that one day where it's a bad ticker, I can update. But I may as well do them. It doesn't take long for one ticker, so I can reload. But for now, I'm going to just update my selected ticker from the last time I updated. When I can do it immediately, and that's the default, or if I want to, I can update every day automatically by clicking on that radio button when the time comes alive. So if I wanted to update every morning at, say, 12:30 in the morning, I can set that time there, and I'll show you later that I then have to set it to automatic, and it will update every day at midnight 30, which is pretty much when you can be happy that all of the data from the US markets and the UK markets are available. To run automatically, you need to have your machine switched on naturally, but not asleep, which is not so naturally. Some machines are set up, quite a lot of them are set them up so that after half an hour, they go to sleep. So you've got to make sure that it's not asleep, that it's awake, and you're connected to the internet. And then when you set this to automatic, it will update for you automatically at night. And if you click on this little button here that says generate reports, it will also run all of your reports automatically at 12:30. So at the time you come in the morning, you'll have all your reports ready for you and all of your charts updated for you automatically. Now, some people use that. Of course, you've got to be one of those people that leave your machine on all night, which leads you to open to the internet, etc. So some people don't use it, and you can turn it on and off at will, whatever you want to do. I personally don't use it. Come in the morning, I put the kettle on, I'll open my PC, I'll then update, and in the 5 minutes it takes, I've got my coffee ready, and I sit down. I know it's updated, and I know I don't have any problems because I've just seen it update. Right, what do you want to update? You want to make sure that equities, indices, markets are done. We're not looking at mutual funds, so that doesn't need to be ticked, or that there it is. We want to have all stock splits done. Now, what does that mean? Well, it means that when a stock is trading at, say, 100, and it splits, company split their stocks for varying reasons. Some because they want to make sure it's not too expensive for people to buy. They want people to buy lots of them, so they'll halve the value and double the number of stocks. So they'll give everyone who's got one stock, they'll give them another one, split it down, so everyone will have 2 stocks instead of 1. And of course the price of each will go down. So if you have one stock at 100, you'll end up with 2 stocks at 50 each, adding up to 100. So nothing's actually happened in the stock. But if you chart the price, you'll find one day the stock says 100, next day it says 50. You'll think that stock is halved in value. What this auto process does is to make sure that all of the data is consistent. So it goes back over time, over history of any stock that's got a split, and applies that stock split to all of history. So if it does split to 50 and halves the value, it will halve the value of all the stocks prior, all the days prior to that split, so that you get an accurate chart. Same with distributions, that can affect the chart value, and normally check data for errors so that it can spot errors for you. Some people just don't use that because they'll check on Data Manager for the last dates, and as long as they can see that most of the stocks have updated, they're not worried about reports on any individual stock to say that, well, this stock, there was no data for this day, or there was no volume for this stock on a day because it didn't trade, therefore there won't be any volume, any stocks traded. So you can get lots of errors appearing which are meaningless unless you're really interested in any particular stock, in which case you can look at it in Data Manager. Update groups and sectors, I haven't gone through that today because I've decided to spend some time on looking at the new features, which we'll do very shortly. So you do want to have update groups and sectors ticked so that the groups of stocks and sectors that the system is built around also update. So you're able to chart, for instance, the automobile sector, or you're able to chart the tyre manufacturers group within the automobiles sector. And this is what updates all those charts of all those groups and sectors. So when you're ready, you just start to update here. I'm just going to update one stock. Closed itself down. I don't think it found it. Right, there it goes. So it's connecting to our data, looking for my password, and it's coming up as an error to show there is no such stock as AAA. If there would have been, then we would have got AAA updated. As simple as that. So, for instance, if I wanted to update just A, we can do that. Now, this is a very interesting thing, and I should preface it before I do that. There are two new features in the product. One of them is intraday updates. Now, what does that mean? Well, it means if you've subscribed to it, then you get the ability to put a tick in this box here, intraday updates. It means that during market times, and here this is set to US market times, between 2:30 and 9 o'clock. Whenever you update your US data, you will get a price for today. It'll be the last, not necessarily the last for the day, but it'll be the last price available during the day. And the server goes to the market several times during the day, once every hour or so, to pick up the last price. And so pretty much by now we should have a price because the market opened at 2:30. So we should have a price. So what I'm going to do is going to update my US data and find the data for today. So what I'm going to do is to go to my data retrieval options, and I'm going to go to just the US market and do S&P 1500, and I'm going to update from last update immediately. I'm going to update my groups and sectors, and I'm going to generate my reports. And off I go. So it's looking at my password, it's saying those are all the stocks that we're going to be looking at, and here are all of those stocks which are now updating with today's data. Some people with a keen eye can see at the end of the first column there's a 16 which shows today's date, the 16th. It's 0416 are the last numbers, and that's updating all of the stocks, all of the US stocks for today. Now, why is that important? Well, I might be looking to trade US stocks. I've been following it for a stock, Agilent Technologies, for instance, for a couple of days, and I'm interested to know how it's doing today because I'll be about to trade. And this will allow me to check all of my reports that it's still following the strategy I want to follow, to look at the chart with today's data in, to make sure nothing silly has happened today. And that enables me to do that for the US market, to actually see what's gone on there. So all of the US now, that data has come through. I'm disconnected from the server. Now I'm going to process those symbols that have come in. So this will take a minute or so because it's got to process the symbols, and then it's got to go in and run all of the reports for those US markets that have just updated. Here comes some log errors at the bottom. You'll see those. Typically ignore those, don't worry about them. It's just reporting that there's a variance of 25% on some of these stocks, which is not unusual, or there's no volume for a particular stock because it hasn't traded yet today. It's not surprising to get incomplete, missing data for various stocks. So here it's running through one of the reports, and that's a particular report which I'll talk about if we get time after this. It's just preparing those reports, going through the stocks. This is a particular report. It's an EDS report. An EDS report is from the application which we have here, EDS. It doesn't show you. Studio, Expert Design Studio. It's that application which is, while I won't be going into it today, it is the same as reports, but you can do custom reports within it. So you can build your own reports, you can back test reports to see how the strategy you've devised would have done by running it through historical data to see what your results would have been had you have traded it under a particular strategy. So you can test what you're doing and whether it's produced results historically. Of course, you know, history can't guarantee the future, but it certainly gives you a good idea that if it's a bad strategy in history, that there may not be a reason why it should suddenly turn into a good strategy. So it certainly tells you the negative, but very useful whichever way it goes. So EDS is a program which we've used to build some of Darren's strategies in. And Darren provides these as you move through the apprentice program to give you a chance to follow his strategies within WinWayCharts. So you can take his strategy, his EDS file he gives you, put it into the EDS program, run it, and get the list of the constituents of those stocks which are following his strategies that he's giving you. So very useful as you move forward, and very useful as you become more sophisticated, because you can create your own strategies and convert those strategies into programs that you can run automatically at night with your reports and produce results for you in the morning. Right, so what have we done? We've run the intraday data for the S&P 1500, but let's just look at the S&P 500. Yes, you can see here we've done everything except Agilent because we were on it. The stocks have all now dated 16th of April. Top right hand corner here, I've got today's data in. I quite often get people who have upgraded to the DAO data because it's only the US stocks which update intraday. We haven't got that facility in the UK yet. Maybe they'll move forward. They'll be as advanced as the US are in providing it, but they still feel in the UK that it's a very expensive thing to do, and they charge people a fortune for getting stocks during the day. Whereas the US markets are a bit more flexible in this, and they're allowing it. So we're able to benefit from it, take that data, and update all of your reports, all of your charts as you go along during the day. So that will be, pretty much just after open, we will get a last price. If we do it in half an hour's time, we'll get a different price for each of those stocks if they're moving. But at least it gives you during the day a chance to move along. So if we're trading US markets, and a lot of us are, because it's very easy if we're working to come home at night. I know not many people come home nowadays. We're all working from home, or most of us. But nevertheless, when you are trading the US market in the evening, it's very easy then to update on an intraday basis. And so that's a very useful feature, which is now available in DAO data, to be able to update your charts on the fly, so to speak, on the day that you're trading, and actually trade on the day rather than waiting for tomorrow to look at how the stocks are moving. Right, now another feature that we have is that we're able to get data for the currency markets. And so we've got a new list which comes out called currency pairs. And currency pairs is a list of 7 stocks to start with, just to get you going, of 7 major stocks. So you can see how we're doing on the currency markets. They are not like normal currency charts because they are end of day charts. So they're just the price when the market closes around midnight-ish in New York. They pretty much strike at that stage an end of day. And it's not like stocks, because stocks have an official close. The markets get together and they agree on what the close will be. So the New York Stock Exchange will decide on a close. You have to wait for it sometimes because they determine the close based on a closing auction in some cases, where people all trade together in one big go, and then out of that comes the closing price. So the exchange then creates what's called an official closing price. And that's the price that you see within WinWay. Now, with currencies, there is no official exchange, and there's no regulation as to who and where you trade currencies. There are major players, there are major venues of which you can trade, and what we do is to take data from those major areas and from other contributors that are trading, big trading houses, big foreign exchange players, and strike an average of those closing prices at 12 o'clock. So it's not an official closing price, it is an average closing price. And for that reason, it's priced to the nearest 3 decimal places rather than 4, which is what the normal trading prices are shown in. Nevertheless, they're very, very useful for looking at trends going backwards in time on a daily basis, or weekly or monthly for that matter, to see where your FX is going and see how it's going to impact on your trading or even impact on your FX trading. Now, how do you get other there are, I'm not sure the numbers, there's many more than 1,000 different currencies that you can have updating. So what you do is just exactly the same as I showed before. Add a stock, you can add a currency as well. Again, if you're on the trial, you can see these 7, but you can add a stock, but of course with a trial you won't be able to update the data to get data into that new currency that you've featured. So when you subscribe, you can add many more currency pairs into there and create that list of many more than 7. Or you can have several lists. You can have a list for the majors and a list for others, or you can create lists how you wish of all of your symbols. But there would be no point in giving you a list of all the thousands of symbols for all of the currencies that there are, because not everyone is trading them, not everyone wants to look at all of them, and you want to look at the ones you want to look at. So we start you off with 7, but you can add those in. So those are the 2 major differences between the new supply of our data for the data, that we can provide US intraday data and we can provide currency pairs in there. So both of them are things which are not available on the eSignal product, which is still available, but we're strongly suggesting that people use the new DAO data system, because not only is it have extra features, or the potential to have extra features, but the base price is less expensive, and perhaps that's the third difference, that it's less expensive than the eSignal side. So we're recommending that people use that. So that's where we are. Just wanted to sort of sum up as we're coming to the end of the session now. But I wanted to sort of share a couple of things with you. Firstly, just to sum up where we are, we've got a charting package here, which is more than a charting package. It's something which is a complete technical analysis package, which means that it not only provides charts, but it looks at the US and UK markets independently, statistically, without bias, without a broker behind it to push you any one way between any particular stock. It gives independent analysis by statistically looking at all of the data from all the markets to provide you with easy trading suggestions that come from strategies that either Darren has provided, or you can provide yourself as you move along and progress with your trading, to very quickly identify those trading opportunities that you're looking for and allow you to spend maximum time just looking at those few stocks which you want to trade and trading them. And you can get your trading down to the half an hour a day that Darren talks about by viewing the markets in that way. Now, I'd be very simplistic, but what we're trying to do, what we do every 6 months or so, is put on a seminar where people can come and sit down and spend a whole day looking at WinWay. And Steve comes across, and normally we would sit down and go with a small bunch of people and take them through WinWay in more detail, and then show them how they would build WinWay into their trading day, right from making that coffee and updating their data, right the way through to analysing the market to see if it's bullish, bearish, to see where it's moving, to looking at the strategies that are available in that market, to looking at the reports of that market, looking at the reports which I've not shown you all of in WinWay, which analyse the market by group and sector, to see which group and sector you want to look at, and then follow that through to the stock that you want to look at, the strategy that you're using, identify those stocks and actually trading them. So the day goes pretty much like that. And we've built that session, which we've run in London every 6 months or so, but now we're going online with it. So what we've produced is a bunch of sessions which are broken down into 3 individual sessions instead of one whole day. But each of those sessions contains the content of the face-to-face sessions. But because it's online, it's more reasonably priced. And so I'd advise, if anyone is interested in that, to go online and check on the website and sign up for that session. They can sign up for individual sessions or all 3 sessions together. But I can say they're very useful for those who want to really move ahead in how they use WinWay within Darren's environment and how he trades, and also in their own environment when they move forward to that. So I would recommend that. Look that up. I think emails have gone out on it as well. So please look at those sessions and check those out. Other than that, every month I'll be doing this until we get back to civilization, so to speak. And we can get back on a one-on-one basis. I'll be doing this online. So thank you everyone for attending. I really appreciate you coming and spending the time. I know our time gets busier and busier as we isolate, because we've learned how to do all sorts of things and spend our time. So I appreciate you spending the time to be with me today, and I hope you've learned something from what I've been through. Nothing can really take the place of one-to-one session, I know, but I hope we've got close enough to looking at the product that you can make some sense out of it. If you don't, please, you know my email address, support@winwaycharts.com. It comes up on the splash screen every time you open charts. So please email me, just say hi, identify yourself and say, I was at the session on the webinar, what do you mean by? Or any other issues you've got with WinWay, I'm here for you, and I'm at the end of the email, end of the phone, and available for you. So please, welcome to come and attend these free sessions again. I haven't explored everything this week. We haven't been over the help text, which I'm going to do another time. We haven't been over groups and sectors, which we'll do another time. And I'll find other areas that are different from historically how we've been through things. So please come along again. Look forward to seeing you then. And until then, stay safe and keep well. Bye-bye.